Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as I show you how to propagate and divide globe thistle. So let's go. Globe thistle, also known as Echinops, is hardy here where I live. It's a beautiful perennial. It has a nice blue flower to it. It's actually very unique. I would say it's probably one of my most favorite plants because it's so different. There are a lot of different ways that you can propagate this plant. One way is from seed. I made a video showing you my process for collecting the seeds of Echinops, and I'll put a link to that video down in the description below. Another way to propagate the plant is through roots, and you can take pieces of the root and propagate the plant that way. This video is going to focus on how to propagate the plant through division. Even though this plant is tricky to propagate through division because of its long taproot, it is possible to still do it. The two best times to propagate this plant are either in the early spring or early fall months. I'll be using a large shovel to dig the plant out because of its large taproot. You never want to dig right at the crown or the base of a plant because you might destroy the plant by hurting its roots. You always want to dig out away from the base of the plant. I like to dig from different sides of the plant, not just from one side, especially if it's a tricky plant to dig out. And now I'm just trying to carefully pull the plant out of the hole. And sometimes you might have long roots. You can just tug on those. No matter what you do, roots will break. It's inevitable. As long as you have a good amount of roots still left on your plant, you should be fine. As a bonus, I do want to point out what a seedling looks like for globe thistle, in case you're weeding your flower bed and you don't know what to look for. And I'm just going to zoom in so you can see what the seedling looks like up close. When it comes to dividing any perennial, oftentimes I try to tug and see if I can pull apart a plant, because many times you can. And I'm trying to tug at this one, and it is loosening up, but it's not coming apart very easily. The next thing I do is I check to see where can I make a division? Where can I get a piece where it also will have roots attached to it? That's the key. As long as you have a piece that has growth on the top and roots on the bottom, you should be able to cut or divide that plant. For dividing the plant, I'm going to be cutting right down the center here, and I'm going to use hand pruners to do the job. When you use any sort of tools, you want to make sure you sterilize them in between uses, and I like to use rubbing alcohol. There, we just turned one piece into two pieces. At this point, you could get this plant out in your landscape, and if you were going to do that, just make sure the roots are beneath soil level. You don't want the crown, which is right here, to be beneath soil level. It should be above soil level. Also, I highly recommend doing this on a cloudy, rainy day where you're going to have rain for a few days. The plant's going to go under a lot of shock, so you want to minimize the shock. Another thing you could do to minimize shock is you could remove some of these leaves from the bottom here. However, what I'm planning to do is I'm going to be potting mine up, and I'm going to be keeping them in a shady part of my yard. And the reason I'm potting them up is I don't know where I want to put these plants. And I also want them to recover in the shade for a number of days before I plant them out. I'm just adding some compost. You can use potting mix if you want. And I'm just using a pot that I had on hand. I like to recycle my pots. I'm using potting mix that's been pre-moistened. You wouldn't want to use any sort of soil or potting mix that's dry. That's what it looks like. I'm going to give this a good drink of water. And like I said, I'm going to put it in a shady area for a number of days because it's not going to be happy with me. And I just want it to recover nicely. I'm going to go ahead and pot up the second one. And then we can backfill. There are a lot of plants that have tap roots, and oftentimes people say you can't divide them or you shouldn't move them. Those type of plants do not like to have their roots disturbed, but sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you need to move a plant. And if you're going to move a plant, I say why not go ahead and divide it as well to make more plants. I hope this video gave you the confidence to divide your own globe thistle. I love this plant. I want more of this plant. And instead of going out and buying more of it, I love the idea of being able to divide it. I can't stress this enough. If you're going to divide your plant, make sure you give it the TLC that it's going to need. You don't want to be doing this on a hot, dry day or when there's going to be a number of hot, dry days. You want to give that plant time to recover. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them down below. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.